Okay, so the lecture is recorded. Now, what we're looking at basically, we're looking at module 7, which basically talk about biotechnology and genetic engineering. The moment you see the word bio, just know that we are talking about life, okay? And zoology means what? Plant. I think that is back to our biology. But today, our emphasis is going to be looking at biological systems and organisms that can be developed with the aim of our emerging technologies. So let's look at it in this way. We have what we call introduction to biotechnology. And now we want to understand what biotechnology literally means. So biotechnology involves the application of biological systems, organisms, and processes to develop products and technologies that benefit society. So we're looking at developing technologies that benefit societies. What are we looking at? Some of those technologies. One of them is the DNA technology. And then apart from the DNA technology, we look at some of the technologies which are related to help us understand our genes, and even the one which are being used into the cancer institutes where they do a lot of screening. So biotechnology, basically, when you look at the technologies which are used there, our interest is the technology that is able to allow us. In Uganda, we talked about DNA, people having babies outside, and they said you shouldn't go for DNA. So DNA is basically trying to give us a match for us to understand our biological systems, where we belong to. Some of you may not know your real dad. So you can now use biotechnology to help you using the DNA to match and get to understand who your parent is. These are emerging technologies. In the past, it is not something which is there. But these days, we know women are not actually trusted. They have multiple sex with multiple men. It's a common thing. That's why they have babies outside, and failed marriages are all over. So those are some of the consequences that are making very many kids that now interested in, do I know my dad, using some of these emerging technologies. So in a nutshell is that it encompasses a wide range of disciplines like molecular biology, genetics. When you look at the genetics, we look at your genes, then the biochemistry and the engineering. And of course, all this find its application in medicine, agriculture, which is one of the area that I'm doing research in, genes of plants, and then also food production and environmental conservation. To me, some of this feels like environmental conservation is my interest. Agriculture is my interest. Food production, medicine is not basically my interest. My interest is basically agriculture, the food bit of it. How do we make sure that we have food security? So let's look at the genetic engineering bit of biotechnology. So the genetic engineering is a key concept of biotechnology that involves manipulating genetic materials of organisms to introduce new traits or modify the existing ones. So some of these techniques include the recombinance of DNA technology, which is basically like gene editing and synthetic biology. Something which is synthetic is modified, that are used to insert, delete, and then modify genes of organisms. And of course, it enables a lot of productions of novel proteins, organisms, and other metabolic pathways. We'll try to understand them when it comes in terms of the GMO, which is the genetically modified uh, organisms. There are foods which are organic and the one which are GMO modified in a way that you can eat meat that is modified, and it tastes like meat, but it's not actually meat from the real animals. They're genetically modified. Even plants, you can eat plants which are GMOs. So whatever happens in this genetic engineering has a lot to do with what we will see as we look at some of the applications. But all these concepts of the genetic engineering, I have to be honest to you, is that it, it, I'm trying to show you those one who have attended lectures today. Okay. All right. So basically, I'll try to mute someone, but I think. Right. So basically, when we look at these applications of this biotechnology and genetic engineering, remember, we are not going so much into details. Biotechnology is almost it's under bioinformatics, which is a big course unit that it's been covered for almost 3 years. For us, we just want to have that simple understanding. What is it when they are talking about biotechnology? And of course, what you would say that when they're talking about biotechnology is that it involves applications of biological systems and organisms or processes to develop products or technology that benefits society. Some of these technologies involve molecular biology, genetics, biochemistry, and genetic engineering, which we're going to look at the applications of the biotechnology and genetic engineering. Let's start with the field like medicine. So in medicine, genetic engineering plays a crucial role in the development of pharmaceuticals, including recombinant proteins, vaccines, and gene therapies. All these are the applications of genetic engineering in medicine. It also enables the productions of genetically engineered organisms, such as the production of insulin, of course, growth of hormones and other therapeutic proteins. Let's say you're losing hair. There are those people who have bald hair and you want to grow hair. You've seen what happens to popular players that have money like Rooney. Rooney was getting bald and decided to grow hair. And I hear when you mix egg with garlic or water in the combination and rub around that part where the hair is not growing, hair grows like magic, which is something that is worth discussing. Then also there's what we call genetic editing technologies, such as the CRISPR-Cas9, which offers the potential of genetic disorder by correcting diseases that causes mutation. And of course, mutation is one of the bad things. When you experience it, your part of body can be amputated if that really happens into your life. So there's some keyword that is called this word CRISPR is clustered regularly interspersed short palindromic repeats associated in protein 9. So basically that is it. Of course, if you go deep with biology, you would understand it. And of course, I've given you some of them in the assignment, which I'm sure you would have tried to look at it. But remember here, we don't go so much into the details of how the CRISP system, which consists of the two components, the Cas9, which looks at the enzymes, and then the CRISP sequence, which basically looks at the DNA and the genes and even bacteria. So we're not going to look at basically in details of this, but that is where it is being used in genetic editing technologies. And of course, basically, a lot of researchers do precise research to edit DNA sequences by introducing double strands to break some target locations into the genomes that break cells, and it causes a mechanism that helps to have a DNA repair mechanism, and such as how you insert them into your genes, and those are the areas that biotechnology is being applied. So it's being applied basically in medicine and healthcare, basically in developing of pharmaceuticals, including recombinant proteins, vaccines, and gene therapies. And then also, it is also being used in the production of genetically engineered organisms for productions of insulin, growth of hormones, and other therapeutics proteins. And then they're also being used basically in gene editing technologies such as the CRISPs and the Cas9 that offers the potential of treatment for genetic disorder by correcting diseases causing mutations. So these are the applications of biotechnology and genetic engineering. Let's look at application in other areas. Agriculture. So in agriculture, which is one of the key areas that I normally am passionate about, some research that I'm conducting in agriculture, is that when you look at the genetically modified crops, these are crops that are engineered to possess these desirable traits, such as crops which are pest resistant, herbicide tolerance, and improve nutritional content. Because they looked at the entire body system, they know what your body needs for it to grow. I think when I was still in high school, we used to have this porridge. When you take like constantly for 3 months, you become very fat and gain a very big body. Once you just engage and the body just responds to it very fast, and you start growing fat like a balloon. It's kind of a weird thing that I've seen. But anyway, those are the challenges of GMOs. And then there's also this biotechnology that is used to develop crop varieties. Like now, what I'm doing, I'm dealing with actually crop varieties in legume plants. In fact, the one which are being used for protein, and that is like beans and cowpea, respective of those others. And of course, I'm looking at areas which are more drought resistant or drought tolerant. So I'm trying to look at the biotics and the abiotic stresses in them. So that is how you can use some of this. You can use actually the plants also have the plant genes, the genomes, which are being basically used to identify how the crop is growing, whether you will get better yields or poor yields, but that is one of the key areas. But there's a lot of contributions that AI, which is an emerging technology that can be used in such fields. There's also what we call microbial technology that contributes to agricultural productivity and development of biofertilizers and biopesticides and growth promoting microbes. So here basically is that when you look at it in terms of some of those fertilizers, the biofertilizers, they say that some farmers really complain that the fertilizers are actually not making the plants grow. The fertilizers are not good. And those are the challenges that we face when we interface with the people who are using some of these emerging technologies in agriculture. Farmers complain about that you cannot plant in the same field or garden twice when you use fertilizers. The soil nutrients, literally some fertilizers destroy the soil nutrients. That's why it's actually good to use the natural manures because of some of this has a lot of impact to the ground. So let's look at also areas like environmental biotechnology. Now with areas like environmental biotechnology is that the bioremediations involves the use of microorganisms or enzymes to degrade or detoxify pollutants in soils and water and air. So when you look at a situation where people want to detoxify the soil, they use this biotechnology basically to help degrade or even detoxify polluted soil or even water. Let me give you in water, in sewage. You've seen people do a lot of sewage treatment. And some of those sewage which are treated are again taken to our farms, which is basically affecting the yields of those crops because of the chemicals which are there. And if what happens if you take a treated sewage and pour it onto the lake, you hear people complain that the fish die because when the fish eat them, they eat the chemicals, which affects the water, and the water has living organisms like fish, aquatics, basically, frogs, and so many crocodiles, which are really affected. So you really need this biotechnology to help in bioremediations. Then we also have genetic engineering, which basically has the can enhance when you employ the genetic engineering, it enhances the efficiency of bioremediation processes by engineering microbes with specific metabolic capabilities. The metabolic capabilities is that some of the reptiles can adapt to any type of temperature, and you can re-engineer so that they can easily adapt. Let me give you a quick example here within the environmental biotechnologies that let's take, for instance, this, I don't know whether you know mud fish. How many people have eaten mud fish? I know you're there, but you know what happened with mud fish general is that there are some areas which dries completely. And those aquatics like mud fish, they can adapt themselves and hide themselves and stay in that mud place until the next season for the rain comes. So literally it's like their body adapts to that environment and they wait for the season to come. And some of those, by the way, others are getting extinct. That's why you need the conservation bit of it so that you take care of those ones which are getting extinct. So you can now keep them. You can re-engineer environments where you can keep those other animals that have different metabolic capabilities. There's also what we call biotechnology also contributes to the development of biofuels, bioplastics, and sustainable materials. that helps to derive renewable energy. And of course, renewable energy is quite crucial um, for, for they are quite crucial, especially when it comes to just a second. I want. Okay, so they are quite crucial in a way that it helps to also control the way our people are degrading our environment, like cutting trees. So if you have some of these biofuels which are being used, and it's a renewable energy because you use it to maybe cook food, um, like the biogas which are being used basically for cooking. So it also helps to preserve our environment. All right. There's also what we call the application in industry. Now let's look at also the application of it in industry. Is that when it comes to uh, enzymes and microorganisms that are being used in industrial processes like chemical fuels. So some of these emerging biotechnologies can be used for fermentation and biocatalysts. Let's say you want to ferment milk. If I'm to ask you, if you just go and milk a cow and then if you just go and milk a cow and then you want to take fermented milk, you can apply your ordinary chemicals. Let's say you have uh, lemonade, the lemons, and you squeeze it into the milk, it will get fermented. But you can also engineer some of those uh, biocatalysts that helps carry out fermentation. So that's how you can also use biotechnology. All right, now we also have what we call genetic enables the genetic engineering enables genetic engineering, which enables the optimization of metabolic pathways and designs of microbial host for the productions of bio-based products. So some of those, okay, let's say a lot of people always feel cold, but there are some tabs when you take them, they can keep your body warm. They can increase your rate of metabolism. So, and of course, I believe you know what metabolism is. It's some concept that I believe most of you did biology, and you should be able to the rate of reaction in the body. Yeah, so there's also what they call synthetic biology. What happens? Let me first go back to metabolic reaction. What happens when it is cold? You feel hungry very fast, even when you have eaten food, because of the way your body, your metabolic reaction is performing itself within your body. Now we also have one area which is called synthetic biology. Synthetic means fabricated. So synthetic biology is an approach of is synthetic biology basically is approaches facilitate engineering of novel biological systems which are tailored. The word tailored, synthetic, fabricated, engineered, all those ones means they, they are changed the concept, the content are always changed. So it is one of the concepts of biotechnology to meet some of the industrial applications. Now, we also have what we call challenges that are with the rise of these emerging technologies. What are the challenges now that are there in biotechnology and genetic engineering? One of them is the regulatory frameworks. So the regulatory frameworks are necessary to ensure that that we ensure uh, responsibility in terms of the biotechnology application with poor risk assessment and then containment measures. So if you don't have a framework, a regulatory framework, like something that controls, otherwise people will use too many, some of this DNA or GMOs, which can actually, the consequences of a bad research is the impact onto the society. When you do research and you say this product can make people grow fat and people take the product and start dying, and if 100 millions have consumed the, okay, even maybe millions of people have consumed the products, that means you have actually killed half of the population. That's why, you look at a bad, a failed experiment that happens in Wuhan about the COVID-19 virus, and virus getting out of the lab, just getting out of the lab like this. It's one of these engineered, fabricated things which are done without a framework. People should know where those viruses are coming from. That's why the lab is one of the most useful and dangerous area that, if not well regulated with frameworks, there can be tremendous impact which are detrimental to our society. So we also have what we call the intellectual property rights and access to technological innovations, which raise issues of equity, particularly in developing countries such as Europe, even in Africa now. People are well educated now. People know they know their rights. They know their rights to some of these innovations. Innovations that affect them, they really don't want such innovations. All right, so in summary, before we throw and look at some of these possible questions, in summary is that biotechnology and genetic engineering have transformative potential across various sectors, offering solutions that other areas like medicine, healthcare, agriculture, environmental, sustainability, and industries have. Biotechnology can help solve some of those potential challenges. In agriculture, let's say you want to grow crops and you want to know where the crops are being grown, so you can use some of this biotechnology. In medicine, when people talk about DNA, you saw how families were being broken, because that is when you start knowing that your wife, the one you have at home, has been sneaking outside and having babies that are not yours. I don't know whether, for you people are still very young, I don't know whether you will ever wish to have such kind of. That's why they say that DNA basically, you go for it when you're strong. So it's a talk that has been there, but you know some of those consequences. Then also there's also what we call continued research, innovations, and responsible stewardship. Of course, stewardship means the spearhead and then they help to harness the benefits of biotechnology while addressing ethical, social, and environmental considerations. Okay. All right. So understanding some of these principles and applications of biotechnology is crucial for students and professionals seeking to contribute to the advancement of this rapidly evolving field. It's evolving. So in a nutshell is that biotechnology uh, has a transformative potential of changing how we can deal with DNA issues, GMOs, and other genes, and even the organisms that we have within the soil. So this brings us to actually the end of biotechnology, because we are not looking at them in details. We're looking at them in just to have that understanding of them. All right, so let's look at sample questions and answers. Now, with sample questions is that we will try to talk about these questions. I have brought the questions there for you, and we can basically talk about the questions one by one. You never know, some of these questions may appear in your test. So yeah, that is it. It may appear in test or exam. So let's discuss them. I know you are on that side of the screen. I don't see how you're doing it. Some people want me to take, let me take roll call. I've taken roll call. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some of these. Let's talk about some of these questions. The questions are many. I don't know whether we'll finish all of them, but let's try to discuss the one we can. Of course, we can all. Now let's look at question one. Explain the process of recombinant DNA technology and its significance in biotechnology. I hope you go back and listen to this recording, because I'm just going to explain them. I don't have it somewhere, but I'll explain them according to what I know and what I've been reading. So basically, recombinant DNA technology involves the manipulations of DNA molecules to create combinations of genetic materials. So basically, the process includes, like, when you isolate a gene from one organism and then insert it into another vector, such as maybe virus. So introducing the recombinant DNA molecules into a host organism, they can help with this biotechnology that includes the recombinant proteins for pharmaceuticals, and then development of genetically modified crops, and the development of genetically modified crops with desirable traits. And of course, this traits helps in the creations of engineered organisms for various industrial and research. So what do I say here is that the recombinant DNA technology all right, so I'm resharing the notes. So the recombinant DNA technology, in summary, is that it helps basically to create combinations of genetic materials. And of course, the process includes isolating a gene of interest from one organism and inserting it into another organism, which is the host organism. That is the recombinant DNA technology. Okay, let's look at, I hope you have understood. Basically, what it means is that recombinant DNA technology involves manipulations of DNA gene molecules to create a combination of genetic materials. That is it. It is basically picking gene from one gene, from one organism and inserting it or introducing it into another organism, which is the host organism. And that recombinant DNA recombinant DNA molecules is transferred into the host organism. Yeah, that process of transferring, removing gene from one organism and then putting it into another organism is what we call recombinant DNA technology. So that's the process, removing it from one gene and putting it in another in a simple way. So let's look at question 2. Discuss the ethical considerations surrounding the usage of genetically modified organisms in agriculture and food production. So I think here I'm going to use a lot of my experience because I'm trying to do a lot of research into the genes of plants. Basically, I want to understand how the genes can be associated with their yields. So here, the use of genetically modified organisms in agriculture and food productions raises the ethical considerations related to, one, environmental impact. We're having a lot of climate change. What impact will it have on the environment? Will the crops yield or it will not? Food safety, the food we are going to eat. Is the food going to be free? Some of these modified organisms may have gluten, which is that fat, gluten free. Will it have gluten free? Then also other factors can include the socio-economical factors. So our concerns is the flow of the gene to the wild population. Will some of those GMOs be pesticide resistant, or it will be it will not be pesticide resistant weed? And then also, what is the safety of the GMOs for human consumption for a long period of time? What are some of the challenges when you consume these GMOs for a long time? Are we going to have some of the consequences to us as the human beings? Okay. So basically, in summary, is that the ethical considerations surrounding GMO is that the environmental impact on food, our food safety, and our socio-economic factors. Those are there are three: environmental impact, food safety, socio-economic factors are our concern from these genetically modified organisms in agriculture and food production. If there's any question, please ask now, because I basically wanted any question from you, but I decided to present the questions and then we look at them. Do I have questions from class? Okay, let's proceed.
Not from me at the moment.
Yeah, but you understand how to answer these questions because they might come back. I have one question. Yes, Mark Arinda. Please go ahead, ask your question. Unmute, ask question. I have no question. Okay. So let's proceed. Now let's look at it in terms of the CRISPR Cas9 technology. How does CRISPR Cas9 technology work, and what are its potential application in genetic engineering and medicine? You guys, I gave you this as part of your assignment to do. I don't know. But when you read more about it, is that CRISPR-Cas9 technology is a powerful tool for gene editing that allows for precise modifications of DNA sequences. It allows for precise modification of DNA sequences within the genomes of an organism. It works by using a guided RNA molecules, which basically targets the specific DNA sequences. And then the Cas9 enzymes, they basically they make cuts in the DNAs. So they are being used for repairing of, we talked about some of treating disorder, handling. So basically they are being used in areas like gene therapy, genetic disorder, growing of the air where it has not been growing, resistant crops, developing animal modules for studying diseases in basic research in biology. So those are so basically the role of how does DNA technology works and what is its potential is that they are basically used for, they're used as tools for gene editing that allows precise modification of DNA sequences within the genomes of an organism. All right, let's look at question 4. Describe the role of bioremediation in environmental biotechnology and provide examples of pollutants that can be remediated using the microbiology. So bioremediation is a process of using microorganisms such as plants or enzymes to remove or neutralize pollutants from contaminated sites. Let's look at it in terms of how you can remediate a polluted water. What do you do to remove a polluted water? Or let's look at it in terms of bacteria and fungi. Basically, a degraded environment or pollutants, organic pollutants, can be very toxic to our environment or harmful, but we can use bacteria like Pseudomonas, Bacillus species that can help to degrade hydrocarbons in oil spills. Or like fungi, I believe you know fungi, the trichoderma and the Aspergillus species, which are basically used to break down industrial chemicals. So they are also being used in the treatment of water. One of them is use a lot of chlorine to treat water. When you take water from the tap, you know it is not safe, so you apply some of those bioremediation to treat water, to detoxify, because the water comes when it's toxic. Yeah, that is it. That's how you use bioremediation. So, but in summary, is that bioremediation is use of microorganisms. Basically, it's the use of microorganisms, plants or enzymes to remove or neutralize pollutants from contaminated sites. You can remove by using bacteria, fungi. Yeah, those are the most common ones that you can use. All right, let's go to question 5. Question 5, discuss the potential benefits and risk of using genetically modified crops in agriculture, considering factors such as yield improvement, pesticides reductions, and ecological path. Now here, when you look at it in terms of agriculture, let's look at it in terms of the use of the reduced use of chemicals, because they're basically telling you discuss the potential benefits and risk of using genetically modified crops in agriculture. So like this insect resistant genetically modified crops, some of them produce toxins that are harmful to pests but safe for humans. So if they produce toxins that are harmful to pests but they are safe for humans, that's a benefit of using these genetically modified crops. And then two, some are beneficial in reducing the needs of using insecticides. Because if you want to treat weed, you can introduce some of those crops that can clear away with the weeds instead of using chemicals to remove weed. So you can also look at others which are herbicide tolerant crops that allows like effective weed control. I'm trying to talk about weed because those are the common things in agriculture, leading to higher yields and then reduce environmental impact from herbicide use. So now there's the overall use of herbicide resistant weeds. You try to treat them using herbicides, the weeds are not going. Then you have to introduce some of these genetically modified crops that can destroy those weeds. So that's the benefit of using the genetically modified crops. There are some weeds that don't even move away. If you plant sorghum and plant the cereal crops, there is that plant that likes growing with flower, and they say that flower is very dangerous. When you eat it, you can even die. So what do you do in that way? You introduce these GMO crops that can clear away the weeds. They're dangerous to the crops, but they are less harmful to humans. So use them. They are better instead of using the herbicides. So let's go to the next question. Explain the concept of genetic editing and provide examples of genetic disorders that can potentially be treated using gene therapy approaches. Now, gene is one of the concepts that deals with DNA sequences. For you to edit the DNAs, you need the crypts and the Cas to deal with some of those transcriptions activators like effect nucleus. So gene editing basically helps in treating gene order, gene disorder, and the genotypes. For examples, dealing with so many challenges related like cure treatment, and also dealing with diseases that are resistant. Yeah. So gene editing, basically, you can use the CRISPR-Cas9 to basically helps you to do the treating of genetic disorders by correcting disease that are causing mutation into the gene, into the genome or the genes. I've talked a lot. I need to finish up this. What are the applications of synthetic biology in micro? What are the application of synthetic biology in biotechnology, and how does it differ from traditional genetic engineering techniques? That's a good question. Okay, synthetic biology, basically, I told you it's a fabricated, it's a interdisciplinary that deals with biology, by engineering, use bit of chemistry, computer science to construct new biological system for specific purposes. Like if your interest is basically to deal with designing the pathways of biofuel, you can do some bit of the genetic engineering. Biogas, instead of not using the normal gas. Are you aware that you could also do some biofuel from the waste product that comes from cow? The cow dung can also be used as a renewable energy. You can use it for cooking through the biogas when you apply some of this genetic engineering. Yeah, so that is how you can apply the synthetic biology. But basically, this basically helps you to modify one of the existing I would say pharmaceuticals to your desired needs. Yeah. So that's the role of biotechnology in productions of biofuel and renewable energy sources. Discuss the role of biotechnology in production of biofuels and renewable energy sources, highlighting key advancements and challenges in this field. So the biotechnology basically is significant for renewable energy sources, which I've explained to you, which are they're cleaner, they're less dependent. So some of these biofuels, such as the bioethanol, biodiesel, and biogas, I'm talking about the biogas produced from renewable sources, such as the mass crops, agricultural residues, and waste materials, or waste from human beings, can also be turned into a biogas thing. So enzymes and microorganisms that are being used to do the biocatalyst fermentation can be converted to biomass, which end up becoming fuel, biofuel. You don't use the actual fuel. Okay, I think we're about to get done. Examine the impact of biotechnology and personalized medicine and development of the targeted therapies for treating genetic diseases and cancer. Examine the impact of biotechnology. So basically, biotechnology, it has the potential of of diagnostics and therapeutic approaches that help in the gene markup, health status, and factors. Yeah. And then also, it has also the advances. It also has the benefits and advances in terms of how you can deal with, guide you into treatment decisions. It also helps you in gene therapies, cell-based therapies, and the immunotherapies. The cell-based is, I've given you examples. You can grow hair anywhere on your body when you use some of this biotechnology. So what are some of the potential uses of biotechnology in industrial processes, and how do enzymes and microorganisms contribute to biocatalysts? So basically, biotechnology plays a crucial role in industrial processes. For instance, the chemicals, the fuels, and the pharmaceuticals, which offer sustainable alternatives to the traditional manufacturing methods that rely on fossil fuels. So basically here, enzymes are used to catalyze and do fermentations of these renewable products and biomass. For example, you can try to use it in terms of the prostest and the lipest as and use this in terms of food processing. And ask yourself, how do people really process food? How do you process and preserve someone's food? Those are the use of how you deal with enzymes. When you leave milk outside, it's going to ferment because of the bacteria. But how do I preserve it without it being affected? So I preserve the bacteria so that I can control yeast. Some of you have made beers, waraji from these fermented crops. You cover it. There's a lot of biotechnology that takes place there. Yeah. So in summary, is that biotechnology plays a crucial role for the productions of chemical, fuels, and pharmaceuticals, offering sustainable alternatives to the traditional manufacturing methods that rely on petrochemicals and foils or fossil fuels. Yeah. So that is it. I've tried to talk about them, but you have the questions. You can try answering them at your free time. That is it, what we have for today, and that's what I've planned for you for this week. So in other words, we are remaining with three modules to complete. There are actually 10 modules. So now the other 3 modules, we shall maybe go a little bit slower with them to complete the semester. But now let's try to engage and interact with, like, if you can get an opportunity of us all going and using virtual reality, and we experience that as a class. We go to a place and all of us, we go and try it. I think that would be okay and nice. Okay, thank you for attending. Let me stop the recording.